completely human with a diagnosis that is only a part of who I am.
It's Tuesdays with Tawana. Let's get it. You ready? Let's go. Hey. Beloveds, what's good? It's Tuesdays with Tawana. What's up? Let me put on my glasses so I can see beloveds as they pop in. It's so good to be back in the building with you. I have missed you so much and didn't realize I've been on hiatus since June, which is bananas. So much. Absolutely bananas. So yeah, got a new intro. We ready to rock and roll for October. We ready to do big things to close out this fourth quarter of this year. For those who are here for the first time, welcome. For those that are my ride or dies, I'm so grateful for you. And because you are, I am. So here I am with Tuesdays with Tawana every Tuesday, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for about 30 minutes. We talk about current events. We talk about life experiences. We talk about breast cancer awareness, domestic violence awareness, and everything in between. You can pop things in the comments. If you're watching this later on any of your podcast platforms, you can pop in some questions for some answers. I love to engage with community. That is so important to me. It's great to have this podcast, but it's fruitless and doesn't mean anything if the information isn't going out and if we aren't sharing information. This is not about me, Dr. Tad. This is not for self-aggrandizement. This is not, this is for community. This is what a womanist looks like. A womanist coming, seeking liberation in the midst of my Black experience, fully unapologetic, so that we are not only liberated, but those around us are liberated as well. So I am so grateful for this opportunity to come back, especially for the month of October. We realize and know, some of us, or maybe some people don't know, I don't know. October is set aside for Breast Cancer Awareness Month and for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Hey, Jules. Yay! Yes, I'm so glad you are here. Good to see you. I am back after being on hiatus since June. And we are going to set things up. The end of this year is going to be really exciting. You saw the intro. We'll have special guests. We are really expanding our reach and really inviting other voices to be in the midst of this community building experience. We'll still rock together from 2 to 2:30. So it'll be like 15 minutes of a guest, 15 minutes of me talking about current events or anything that has been brought to my attention. So some things don't change and some things have been enhanced. So I hope you enjoy this journey with me. So welcome everybody. Let's get it popping. It is October. As I was saying, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And awareness months, of course, wouldn't even need to exist if we had a modicum of equity and humanity and care and compassion and acknowledgement, lack of judgment, curiosity. But because those things are few and far between, we find ourselves having to experience these awareness months because unfortunately, many of these, whether it's a dis-ease or an adverse experience or just acknowledging who we are and our cultural prowess, it's not noted. It's not noticed. It's not acknowledged. So these awareness months, these months of celebration at times, is to insert our voice into a narrative that is often silenced or ignored. So with that, we are, on Tuesdays with Tawana, we talk about pretty much everything. Nothing is off limits here. I love the way my beloved brother Jeff in Denver calls it, I think, the free think zone. We are here to think and expand our thought process beyond our own limited experiences so that we may experience one another, so that we can acknowledge and honor humanity. So these awareness months, as daunting as it is for me for this month, because I embody both. I am a HER2 positive metastatic breast cancer survivor and thriver. I am in active treatment every 3 weeks. I go to the doctor, I have a port, get my infusion, and I'm a domestic violence survivor. And I've often taught and share that being a domestic violence survivor is only the beginning. It's one thing to end the harrowing experience of being in a domestic violent relationship, but things begin after one leaves. It doesn't just end and then you go skip through the tulips and everything is okay. Things change, whether it's your environment or who you surround yourself with, or even healing your own triggers and your own scars or wounds, and you want them to become scars because that means you're in the process of healing. So, I often talk about being a domestic violence survivor because I want to put a face to domestic violence survivorship. And domestic violence does not discriminate at all. It does not discriminate. Hey, sister. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I love you, Tony. So these awareness months, it takes people like me who can tell their story, especially when it comes to domestic violence, because many cannot tell their story. They can't come on social media. They don't have social media. When they move, they have to, stop interacting with friends and family. And then there are others like me who can speak for the silenced, who can speak for those who have been silenced by their situation and circumstance. So I not only do this for me and to show a face to what survivorship may look like, I also do this to encourage those and to speak for those who can't. To speak for those who can't. And hopefully there is something that is said, whether it's from community or from me, that can give them a sense of hope and self-love and honor and respect, removing the guilt and the shame that comes along with domestic violence, or even the guilt and shame that comes along with being a cancer survivor. I not only, I lost my health in general, lost my breast, At one point, I lost my hair. And as you can see, I am coming back. I'm lockless right now, but the locks are coming back. It was a healing decision for me because I was going through a shift in my life, a healing shift. So I decided to cut my locks and start this healing process over again. The lock process is very sacred and very near and dear to me. So cutting off my locks was not a bad thing. Like, I didn't have bad energy in my hair. It was actually good healing energy. And it was time to free that into the atmosphere and to begin to embody a new sense of healing and a new form of healing, because we know healing is not, this linear one way, step one, step two, step three. Healing happens in many different ways. Healing happened for me by way of treatment that has kept me alive for 7.5 years. Healing for someone else, they may find their healing on the other side. And we celebrate that as well by holding on to the legacy and the memories and all of the things that they have left for us to live out so that no one dies in vain. So, it's October. It's this dichotomy of emotions where it takes a lot out of me because I am called to do a lot, because this is my platform. This is what I do. So tonight I'm flying out to Boston to speak about my story, to tell my story. The end of October, I am heading out to San Francisco to tell my story. And I'm telling my story to people. When I show up, I am showing up with a host of people with me to tell the story so that those that are in behind the scenes, from chemists to scientists to, anyone that has a hand in the pharmaceutical companies and the extension of it, I am there to humanize the experience so that we are not a number, just a statistic. Behind these statistics are human beings with stories to tell, with lived experiences. And some of us choose not to tell our stories, which is not a bad thing and not a judgment on my end. They choose not to tell their story because they're dealing with their situation the best way they know how. Whether it's not having the language, whether it's, just being a private person. Some may not even have the courage because they are so fearful to talk about what they are going through. So it is so important that I represent and co-create this space to tell the stories of those who are silenced, who are in domestic violence relationships, or survivors in the process of healing from breast cancer, or they may find themselves in remission. Jules said, "Thank you for the hard work of telling your story. It's so important." Thank you so much, Jules. And storytelling is really, it's an art that we from the African diaspora have used in our tradition for healing, for teaching, for resilience, for learning. Many of the stories were told in an oral tradition because it truly embodies the fullness of the person telling the story. Not to mention, there wasn't access to, whether it's people didn't know how to read or they didn't have access to, writing materials. We didn't have computers way back when. And, so it was a beautiful and a divine way to pierce the heart, mind, and soul of the hearer in order for them to move forward and do what it is that they are called to do. So we all are called to fill a gap in this world. There are gaps where we are needed. We are created to fill those gaps through our stories, through our existence, through our spiritual prowess, through our mere beautiful stories. As heinous or as beautiful and anything in between as they may be, we are called to fill the gaps through our storytelling. I want to mention a couple of things while we're on this call, because I don't want to act like these things are not existing. Two things can exist and two or more things can exist at the same time. One, my heart goes out to those in the South, like South Carolina. I think Tennessee was impacted. Maybe South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever. Doing what we need to do to make sure that you are cared for. I know that maybe close to 70 people have lost their lives and about 600 are still missing. So I want to just name that and let us, do what we can. A little goes a long way when we come together as a village. So whether it's sending food or toiletries or just think daily things like when you get up and you brush your teeth, oh, maybe I should send toothpaste. Or, you take a shower and maybe I should send soap. Or for women, who are, still having their cycle, they need sanitary napkins and so whatever it is that you do on a daily, think about these people who no longer have a home, whose homes are so damaged that the things that they had were destroyed as well. So I wanted to offer that in this moment. I also want to mention right now, I have to look it up because I got a notification that Iran has launched airstrikes at Israel. And one of the baffling things to me about wars just don't make sense to me. And wars have been from the beginning of time. I get it. No, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's been since the beginning of time and I don't get it. What I really don't understand is the fact that Israel has already been charged, forgive my language, with war crimes because of the genocide, and I don't know to what end, what is the consequence for that. So I'm really asking a question because it's baffling to me that these current wars are happening to erase a group of people called genocide. And yeah, and we are still sending like $20 billion for this war, which I don't understand. I don't understand. How do we say someone is charged with war crimes and then there's no recourse, there's no consequence for it? What's up, Jason in the building? Oh, I love the new look. Fine. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I don't understand. So those are two things that I wanted to insert into this narrative because I am just quite baffled and disheartened. And what made me think of this, what made me bring this up in the middle of Breast Cancer and Domestic Violence Awareness Month is I was watching an interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates on, I believe, Good Morning America. And his book, he went to 3 countries, and darn it, I didn't write the 3 countries down, but I know he went to Palestine. I know he went to the city of Dakar, and he went somewhere else that's, dealing with wars. And so he went to these most marginalized places to give voice to people who have been silenced. And during the interview, one of the commentators, who is Jewish, says to Ta-Nehisi Coates, well, what about Israel? And why, and started asking him everything centering around Israel. And it just reminded me of the elitists and the supremacy that happens in our world, where we think that the supreme must be inserted in every single narrative, and some things are just not your narrative. Ta-Nehisi Coates went for a specific reason, to talk to a specific group. Full stop. Period. That's why we live in this nation that is supposed to be freedom of speech, freedom of the press. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a journalist. And so he went to do what journalists do. And that is to share the experiences, whether you agree or disagree, to share the experiences of what's going on with those who are silenced. And it bothered me, but it brings me right back around to breast cancer and domestic violence awareness. We don't talk about domestic violence on every news and I don't really watch the news. This is just like flipping through channels. Everybody is, breast cancer, breast cancer, breast cancer, breast cancer. Well, let me tell you what the challenge is with that. First of all, we're leaving out a group we are dealing with an epidemic with domestic violence, a silent epidemic. The number of people that are exposed and caused harm and even die at the hands of someone who is violent, the numbers are just harrowing. The numbers are disproportionate for Black and brown communities, and we just don't talk about it, and we don't talk about it enough. And because we don't talk about it, that means that it's not being addressed. The resources aren't being put in place because it is not easy. Domestic violence is one of the hardest things to address and to alleviate because it's done in silence. And as soon as you talk about it, then you unveil that mode of silence and you expose and take away the power of the person that is doing the abuse. Right? So, and the abuse comes in various forms, right? It's not just physical, it's psychological, it's mental, it's emotional, it's financial, it's spiritual, and I'm probably missing 2 or 3 more. Because it's not necessarily what you see. A person can come and just look just fine. And behind closed doors is when the violence happens. And we must expose that by opening the door and pulling back the veil, because it's the silence that is killing us. So now we're silent on domestic violence, but then it's cute to wear a pink ribbon or to talk about your walks, but we're not talking about the 41% of Black women that are dying to breast cancer diagnosis as compared to white women. We are not talking about the lack of access and medical racism. We are not talking about the fact that there are medicines out there that we don't know of because we have a certain type of insurance, so we are not worthy to receive that type of medication, or we can't afford it because the copay is too high, and I don't have the money because my job, in my minimum wage job, is not paying enough. So I have to make a choice whether to pay for my medicine or pay for food. We're not talking about that when we, put the pink ribbon up on the screen, and when the NFL wears their pink sneakers or whatever, and many men in the NFL are abusive. They go home and they abuse their partners. We're not talking about that. We just want to talk about the pretty side of breast cancer. Well, I want to tell you what's not pretty. What's not pretty is almost dying 3 times. What's not pretty is having both of my breasts removed and having these scars that I have to look at every day that are not pretty. They weren't done with because I had radiation damages the muscle. And so it's not pretty. It's not pretty when you can't eat. It's not pretty when you can't bathe yourself. It's not pretty when somebody has to go with you to the doctor because you're trying to fight for your life and they're trying to throw all these terms at you about what you need to do to live. They're telling you that you got to eat differently after 30, 20, 30, 40 years. You've been eating a certain way because of the supermarkets in your neighborhood only sell you the shit that's at the bottom of the barrel. Or it's so expensive, it's cheaper for you to go to McDonald's and feed your family. They are not talking about that on the news when they're flashing their pretty ribbon, and they don't even flash the purple ribbon for domestic violence. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that wars are going on and people are charged with war crimes, and we're still giving money to people who are in the midst of wars and killing babies and families and destroying hospitals and schools and stopping the aid from coming to these different countries, whether it's Sudan or Tigray or Congo or Haiti. And then Haiti not only has to deal with their own stuff in their own country, their own independent country, but when they come here as a refugee to seek a better life so that they can help their family back in Haiti, then they are accused of eating cats and dogs, and they are uncivilized, and there is no recourse and no consequence for it. So people are dying, beloved. People are dying to domestic violence. People are dying unnecessarily to breast cancer. People are dying in wars. People are dying because of this negative rhetoric. People are dying because of the hate and the vitriol that is spread on the media, and all they do is keep replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. We don't even talk about the fact that number 45 couldn't even look at Madam Vice President, nor did he look at I just forgot her name. The black woman that was interviewing him, he didn't even look at her. He kept looking at David Muir. This is blatant racism, and no one is doing or saying anything about it, and it is killing us. We just killed an innocent man due to the death penalty. We are killing beloveds, and there is no recourse for it. So next week, beloveds, we're going to talk a little bit more about domestic violence and breast cancer awareness, because especially with breast cancer awareness, breast cancer is not one disease. Breast cancer is the overarching disease, and there's a myriad of types of breast cancer or breast cancer that started in the breast that has metastasized to other areas, and people are calling it whatever cancer, brain cancer, this cancer. And it's actually breast cancer. So the numbers are a little skewed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that next week. I am so glad to be back. I am so excited. I love y'all dearly for joining me, for being in the building on today. And on next week, we're going to continue to chop it up. Share this video, share the podcast. Let your beloveds know. Go on to Amazon, look up my book, You Are Not Your Diagnosis. It's on a purple cover, Tawana Angela Davis. Purchase the book for somebody that is going through a breast cancer experience, so that they can journal their way through healing with me as I share my story. And this journey of healing ain't easy. I love y'all. Thank you so much for joining. And I will see you next week, Tuesday at 2:00. Much love, beloveds.